Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Triangle Area SQL Server User Group's Shop Talk, otherwise known as Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL Server User Group. Tonight, we have with us almost a full cast and crew. Howdy, Millhouse. Uh, Glad you were able to get in. I know that there have been some issues around people who are not logged into Twitch. You might not be able to log in. We will talk about that as we get past the intros and get into the actual show topics for the night. But before I can do that, I have the one and only Mala. How are you, Mala?
Good evening, everyone.
And,
Nice to be here.
and I have Mike Christensen, clone number 46. So 46 in a line of Mike Christensens. How are you, Mike?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, I'm the best clone yet.
That's because they haven't tried to clone a clone. Remember, never clone a clone. It doesn't work.
Never.
All right. Speaking of doesn't work, welcome. In case this is your first time at Shop Talk, welcome in. It's 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's other times and other places. Hopefully, you're kicking back. You've finished a hard day of work, especially on the West Coast or in Hawaii where it's noon. It's like, yeah, it's noon. I'm done for the day. It's all downhill from there anyhow. So, in case that is you kicking back at noon, welcome to Shop Talk. We're going to talk a little bit of technical stuff, and this is supposed to be a chat-driven program where you, wonderful chat, have the opportunity to ask questions of this illustrious panel of people who will probably make up answers. Those answers may even be correct answers. That's the whole beauty of Shop Talk. So, walking through Mark Dillinson's textbook, Fundamentals of Database Management Systems, good examples, although I see star schemas everywhere. Star schemas are fine. I will go to the mat to defend star schemas in specific circumstances. And let's talk. Let's talk about that right now, because otherwise
Okay.
I would just go through my normal intro of, if you have questions, if you have thoughts in chat, this is a chat-driven program. So let's let chat drive the program for just a little bit before we get to the story of the day and then the other stories of the day. What's that, Mike?
So one of the things that's going on with me personally is that we're going hardcore into Power BI, right? And so in an older format, you might have business objects universes and have an admin. So now I'm doing stars, like we're doing like modeling and star schemas in Power BI, which you kind of have to do, right? Which I know how to do, but it's time consuming. So star schema, big fan, but also it used to be somebody else did it, not me.
Yeah. Microsoft products for the last 20 years, going back to SQL Server Analysis Services in 2000, so 2005. So 20 plus years have really biased toward star schemas. So analysis services really wants star schemas. Power BI really wants star schemas. Fabric data warehouses, star schemas. Parallel data warehouse, star schema. Star schemas make a whole lot of sense for warehousing. And the Kimball model in general is a really good model. Now, I have gone on the record describing the Kimball model as the Gremlins model. It's the Mogwai of data modeling, where if you treat the Mogwai correctly, if you follow all of the rules, everything's great. It's when you stop following the rules that you get gremlins. So you have to make
Don't
sure
get
that
it wet.
don't get it wet. Don't feed it after midnight. I forget what the third rule was.
I do too.
Yeah. But
I'm with you.
yeah, so basically, star schemas have very specific rules around how you bring in data, that there has to be one process that controls the data, because you can very easily get out of sync. You can very easily lose your way and have bad data enter into your warehouse. And that, as soon as you start getting bad data into your warehouse, people stop trusting your warehouse. And warehouse trust is a hard thing to build, but it's an easy thing to lose. So yes, star schemas definitely will help tools like Power BI perform to their best. And they also help in a variety of reporting tools. So it's not just Microsoft. I specifically mentioned Microsoft because they seem to go very hard into you will benefit from a star schema in these analytics platforms. But even in other places, the whole benefit of the star schema is really for the business rather than for a particular tool necessarily, because it's easier for business analysts to connect data together without having to write fairly complicated T-SQL queries, the types of things that make sense in a transactional processing system, because there we're focusing so heavily on correctness of data, on constraints, controls, and write capabilities, making sure that we can easily and effectively manage the write process in a way that minimizes the risk of data corruption. So that's where a lot of the benefits behind database normalization comes in, is in creating rules that help guarantee correctness of data based off of the uh, application of that data model to reality, based off of the rules of reality. A
Well,
star
and I'm
schema.
finding
Oh, go ahead.
I'm finding too it's absolutely required because of security features that are in Power BI that where I'm trying to do kind of pretty complicated things where it's kind of like if you're in this group, you can see this data. If you're not in this group, you can't see this data. So there's this there's this necessary step where I did write really complicated SQL, so I didn't have to do a ton of Power BI. But now it doesn't matter. I have to do a ton of power. I have to do a ton of modeling in Power BI because of security.
Hmm. Yeah, that can come into play as well, and not needing database administrators or database engineers or database developers, whatever you want to call them, to write SQL for each report. Yes, because some of your business analysts will be able to write SQL, but their ability to write SQL is select star from table, maybe join to a couple of other tables and add a where clause. They're not going to be very well versed in subqueries and common table expressions, in the apply operator, in query hints, and other fun stuff that may make a query much faster, but are more challenging for the layperson to understand. So, for those reasons, yeah, star schemas, you'll find them in a lot of places. And I think as long as you have the appropriate controls in place around data entry, a star schema is a fantastic solution. It's when you have multiple processes that are writing data that star schemas can easily fall apart. And I think that's where you'll end up with some of the challenge with a star schema is, well, we have our ETL process that runs nightly, but I also want to be able to pull in data from this other source. And why don't we just write a quick script to do that? That's a bad idea. This is where you're feeding your mogwai after midnight. It's not a good idea.
Right.
All right. So let's talk stories. Let's talk about the big news of the day. The big news that is also affecting Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL
I
Server
can't
user.
log in either. I've been trying to log into Twitch. It won't let me.
Yeah, pretty much nobody can log into Twitch right now, it feels like. I will say, anybody who's having trouble logging into Twitch, I'm not able to log in via browser. Um, whether that's this browser on the desktop or even my phone, the Twitch application on the phone. I logged out as an experiment and tried to log back in and getting a message around not supported browsers. I'm pretty sure that's a message that's in error, and it's probably related to this story here. Amazon Web Services recovering again from massive outage. Apparently, there were at least 2 waves of outages. So, if I pull up Down Detector, this is what Down Detector looks like for AWS. We can look at this
Ooh.
early in the day. Early in the day, there was a problem in East 1, AWS US East 1. And it seemed like things were working okay afterwards, but then it's really picked up and it's still going. So we have a lot of services. I mean, basically, if you're using AWS, there's a good chance
They're
that
bad.
you have had a bad day. I don't know, Mala,
That
if
is
you're
like that is only safe for Tony Hawk to skate on. That's it.
you're not wrong, Mike. I mean, this is definitely a roller coaster. This is the peak of inflated expectations. We have a Gartner report right here, and definitely. Actually, this might be the trough of disillusionment. This might be where people are saying, "Why did I tie my fate to East US East 1 and AWS?" Um, I don't know, Mala, if you're able to say anything without giving away any details. Although you are
You're
on
on mute.
mute.
You're on mute. Molly, you're on mute.
Mala's under NDA, so she's on mute now. She's talking, but you're not going to be able to hear.
Sorry about that. 80 to 90% of the business I work at is AWS hosted. So all of today has been just watching the website, what's coming up, and then what's going down again, and what's coming up, and it's been up
Holy
and
cow, Mala. That's crazy.
down. So it's been an interesting day, and looks like things are gradually settling. But the whole day has been like, people would get excited that things are back to normal, and then another 1 hour it would go down again. This is how it's been up and down. I mean, it's a serious outage. A lot of our systems are behind, and it's going to be literally a whole week of catching up tomorrow, assuming that we are stable
So
when nobody knows.
one day of downtime is going to be a week of like catch up work.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
almost a lot of catch up.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
For some of the processes, yeah, it can take a while.
Go
yeah.
on prem. Go on prem for being old. Woo. Yeah, no, we planned it that way. Too bad for you guys.
Right. So let's go in reverse order, and these are all Pacific Daylight Time. So they started out 3 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to stick with Eastern Time because this is US East 1 region, which, by the way, a whole lot of companies are in US East 1. So if you're not diversified in AWS, like multi-regional, and you were in US East 1, yeah, it's a bad day. Even if you were diversified, I believe this might have hit other regions as well. But there were issues. At about 4 a.m., DynamoDB endpoints, significant error rates for requests for DynamoDB. So it comes down to NoSQL. NoSQL broke it. Wait. Of course, the magic 3 letters. The 3 letters that explain every outage. It's always DNS. Every problem in the world is DNS. So DNS resolution of a DynamoDB API endpoint. Okay. Trying to bring it back into service. Applied initial mitigations. And then significant signs of recovery. Everything's going great. Everything's fine. It's 5:27 a.m. Eastern Time. No big deal. Recovery is happening. Don't worry. US East 1 services are coming back online. DNS has been mitigated at 6:35 a.m. And so it looks like requests to launch new EC2 instances are still experiencing increased error rates. Flush your DNS cache because it's always DNS. Recovery for EC2, Lambda, elevated polling delays for Lambda. So, friend of the show, Anders, who is not on tonight because he can't log into Twitch, actually speculated that this might be a Lambda failure, that Twitch might be using Lambda for something as part of the login process. It's failing, and so it returns a generic error message that says your browser is not supported. It would be interesting to see if that were the case. This is, again, wild speculation with no basis in reality, but it might be right. 7:48 a.m. still happening. Lambda polling delays, SQS. SQS queues cleared up, and then another hour after that, you can launch new instances. So it looked like everything was going fine. Elevated errors, so back to having a problem. Significant API errors across multiple services. So again, we went from we're pretty good to all right, we're back to screwed. Network connectivity issues again. More network connectivity issues. we have narrowed down some of the network connectivity issues. The root cause, underlying internal subsystem responsible for monitoring the health of network load balancers. So the network load balancers aren't network load balancing, and that's causing a problem. Mitigation steps, more mitigation steps, more Lambda. Uh, internal subsystems now showing early signs for recovering. More mitigations, more launches, more
They
recovery.
are good about saying we're going to provide another update by this time.
Yeah, they're
That's way better than me. I never am on time. Like
um
we'll have an update by 12, and like, yeah, they did that.
yes. Yeah, AWS historically is pretty good about this type of thing, about laying out what the issue is and then doing an after action report that goes into detail on what actually happened and what they're going to do to limit or prevent that from happening again. Um, Microsoft is sometimes good about this, sometimes bad. It depends on the product. Some of the product,
Sometimes,
yeah,
very, very sometimes. Yeah.
yes,
Well,
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
product team thing. There are some product teams
I
where
thought
they'll be
I was a
like,
stand-up comedian. I was like, sometimes.
yeah, some of the product teams will be very forthright and very descriptive in their describing issues, in laying out that there is a problem. Other teams will be like, nobody can access this service, and yet the health indicator says it's green because the health indicator is manually set by a person inside of Microsoft, and that person hasn't chosen to set it to yellow or red. So some of the teams have automated systems that will set that to yellow or red, and you'll get updates fairly quick. Others, not as much. Um, so we're still seeing this was 4:52 p.m. Reduced throttles for instance launches. They're trying to get back online. 2:48. They've restored some of their services. They're looking to get full recovery in the next couple of hours. So we're seeing basically the winding down of this issue that's been going on all day and has affected a large number of companies.
Millions of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you're affecting Zoom, you're affecting Twitch, you're affecting a bunch of companies that all are related to AWS and using AWS services. And this is not a knock on AWS as such. Azure had a similar outage not too long ago with ECUS 1.
I remember that. Yeah.
So, um, trying to see if I can pull up a good example of
I
who's
can't even
affected.
imagine being an engineer working for AWS or Microsoft in that situation. Like, it must be absolute like war zone.
It
Everybody's on a call. Like,
it
I've been
can
in
be.
some urgent situations where you're on a bridge call for the whole day,
Yeah, yeah. Those types of
pulling
things
in the
can be.
Malas and the Kevins of the world to solve it.
Right. And generally, if you have a good manager, what your manager does is make sure that you're not on the bridge call, and your manager takes the bullet and sits on that call. But yeah, it can be tough, especially when you have. I've had cases where there's an outage and there's literally 3 levels of management standing over my shoulder. They're all right behind me, just staring at my screen as I'm
Watching you do a backup routine.
as I'm typing furiously or trying to read something, and they're all like just standing there. And I at some point, you kind of just say, "Hey, you're not being helpful. Just,
Yeah.
if anything, you're
You're
being
making me
harmful."
nervous. Get
Yeah,
out of here.
like go to the office if I need you. Trust that I'll get in contact with you. I'll wave
Yep.
at you. Otherwise, we just gotta plug away. I'll do this thing. But it is tough. These sorts of outages, they're going to go back. They'll have some after action report. They'll find some way to blame DNS because it's always DNS. So Snapchat, Facebook, Fortnite, Coinbase, Perplexity, Delta and United Airlines. There's a lot. There's a lot of.
It doesn't say Reddit, which I was like, I'm obviously addicted to Reddit, so it's not working today, and I was like, it's got to
It
be
might.
in there, but I.
Yeah, no, it could. Um, I don't know what Reddit uses as their back end, but I will point out for our Reddit addict in the audience, last 24 hours,
Oh, that's not good.
right about the same time as AWS, still having some issues, possibly related to the AWS service
Yep.
issue.
There you go.
So it's quite possible that they also might be using AWS. I don't know for sure. I'm not going
Yeah,
to.
they might use it partially. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to make any claims along those lines. That was our first story. So our first story basically explains why it is we don't have very much chat tonight. It's my excuse
So,
for why.
so this is a question for you. So, both of you know way more about networking than I do. So, I remember I was listening to .NET Rocks not a couple. It was a few years ago, but I met there's a guy who has Power DNS. He's so smart, um, and it's a tool, but it was absolutely what you're talking about with DNS. So like, how could something this wild happen? Like, could it be a technical error, or could it be like some sort of attack or something like that? Like, it seems it's so big that it's like, how could this happen?
We'll find out later, but most of the time, uh, what we what I've remembered from prior Azure and AWS outages is usually somebody has checked in a commit that breaks DNS in some way, that changes an IP address. Like they changed servers and made the wrong update in DNS, or that they accidentally messed up the ARP tables, or they uh, did something that is causing routing to not work correctly. They changed a routing rule in a firewall, or there are several possible root causes. And again, this is assuming that it is ultimately related to DNS, which I say tongue in cheek, everything is ultimately a DNS problem. But we've seen so many cases of if a big internet service is down, most of the time it's DNS. Facebook,
Yes.
Right.
their outage was DNS. Azure has had multiple DNS related outages. AWS has had multiple DNS related outages because generally there is sufficient resiliency for a server has gone down, 12 servers have gone down. Uh, you have zone redundancy. You have of basically the ability to fail over up to the region level and or at least up to the zone level, and still keep plugging in a system like AWS or Azure. So they have a lot of the resiliency points baked in, but it's really hard to have resiliency with DNS because DNS is ultimately about which machine do I need to route to.
Correct. That's a good point, Kevin.
So it's hard to pick up from there. Um, but that said, we don't know for sure. We'll know in a day or two. AWS will have an after action report. They will go through what happened. Was it a bad configuration? Was it a piece of equipment? What was the root cause?
I wonder how many Six Sigma people they have there.
Too many.
Like black belts, Six Sigma black belts. Probably have a lot.
Too many. One is too many.
One is too many. Oh, this is a pet peeve.
This
Welcome
is
to Kevin's
yeah,
channel.
I have no problem with people who have gone through Six Sigma training. I have problems with the idea that Six Sigma training is useful.
Oh wow, getting deep on Shop Talk tonight. You guys are getting the show.
A good one, Kevin, and I agree. I totally agree.
No, it was such a big thing that they were pushing for a while, and some of my older jobs, and they were like, "Oh, you need to be a black belt." And I'm like,
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
"Okay,
They
I got
absolutely
you.
pushed it,
I've been
and
doing accounting for a long time, so
right, yeah, no, they absolutely pushed it, and it was. I consider it the same type of fad that washed over the technical world with stuff like extreme programming, which I I wish I came up with this explanation myself, but extreme programming is the Cerberus. It is the snake eating its own tail. If you follow
yeah."
every single practice regarding XP perfectly, then you never eat your own tail. However, as soon as you deviate ever so slightly from anything that they tell you to do with XP, suddenly everything falls apart. Suddenly you take a big old chunk out of yourself. And that's not healthy. Um, so that's again, I wish I came up with that analogy myself. I stole it from somebody else, like who probably about almost 15 years ago at this point. But I love XP and Kent Beck. Kent Beck's a good person. Kent Beck is very smart. However, I would point out that the number of successful large operations that ever used XP, by my count, was zero. Even the case, I want to say it was Chrysler, where they had a whole bunch of luminaries in the field try to build a process using the ideas, and it just went sideways. It did not work at all. It's
Isn't is are you talking about Windows XP?
no. XP is called it's extreme programming. It was
Oh,
a
extreme
set
programming.
of practices. Um, it was pretty early on in the agile set of methods where you had extreme programming and then Scrum, and you had a couple of others that were competing for mind share. And this was one of the things that really put me off of being firm on any particular method. Everybody else is going to call it a methodology, but this is where I get on my hobby horse. We don't have enough chatter, so I have to rant more. Um, where I get on my hobby horse and say method and methodology are completely different, and people call everything a methodology when very few things are. Pair programming unit tests are good ideas. In principle, yes. So I have no problem with the idea of pair programming. I have no problem with the idea of unit tests. And
Can't do it all day though. We've done it in iterations at Duke, and you can't. It's hard to do it like longer than a certain amount of time.
yeah, pair programming gets tough, and um, they're basically it works best in, I would say, review where you've already got an idea of what to do, and very open speculative development. The in between, it gets to be a lot more challenging because if you're the kibitzer, you're the person who's sitting and doesn't have access to the keyboard or the mouse. Um, you might be throwing out ideas, but like, okay, hang on, I want to type something out. So if you see it at its best, pair programming can help solve some significant problems. For a large percentage of the work that we do, it's effectively repetitive. It's think through problem, come up with algorithm. Coming up with the algorithm is something that I think can go well with pair programming. Can go well in small groups, uh, and then implementation. And so, yes, you can benefit from it, but it is tiring. To Mike's point,
Yeah, and it can be expensive. I mean, you're paying people, I don't know, 40, 50, $60 an hour to do the same thing. And you don't want to do it all the time. You got to maybe use it as a mentoring opportunity.
yeah, and I know you're also supposed to trade off very frequently. You're supposed to have one person do the programming for a little bit and then switch over to the other person, um, and so if it all works well, then yeah, it can provide benefits that a single developer would have trouble with. It can reduce the amount of time that you have to spend on post hoc code reviews because, let's be honest, most post hoc code reviews, after here's 1,000 lines of code, let's review it, your eyes are going to glaze over. Like, whatever, it's fine, it's fine. It's hard to be uh, engaged for a very large code review. It's hard to really figure out, oh, there's there's a subtle bug here.
Yeah, you nailed it because I just did for the Power BI thing that I was talking about earlier. Like, I made like 7 scripts that were hundreds of lines long, and then in the end, like, there were some subtle duplicates that some of my clients were finding, and so I had to fix. And I was like, oh, because I knew that I have to fix it. I have to go through all those scripts. It's a small fix, but like I'm like, oh no, and it can be time consuming, and like you, even a good programmer wouldn't necessarily catch on to that. Like it was a very small nuance.
Yes. Um, Let me see if I can find that article because I remember it was so
So
long
while you're
ago.
finding that, I can so I have this situation where like I'm concatenating multiple fields. So like if you're a doctor, you might have like a record that's like when you were not finished with your training. You might, if you're a provider and you're an employee, like you might have like 6 or 7 records. And so we have a lot of stock code that is like, hey, like go grab this provider, right? So what's happening is that in my code, I'm finding that I'm grabbing multiple versions of the provider. So I'm making metrics based on providers. So it might be like Jim Johnson, MD, Jim Johnson, NP, Jim Johnson, NA. We don't know their credentials. So I'm like, oh. As soon as it got pointed out to me, I was like, oh, I know exactly how to fix that. But it's in all my scripts. I got to fix it at multiple levels, and then make sure that I'm getting the same amount of records back, etc.
Yeah. I can't find the article. It's been so long, unfortunately. But actually, I'll look at. Well, I won't pull up the Uncle Bob article here. This is uh, fairly. You know what? Let's take a look at this because I think, as much as I respect Uncle Bob, Bob Martin, um, I don't follow some of what he's saying in this article. So, but to Millhouse's point, I want to see tests in the code so that I'm comfortable refactoring. That's fair. I do think I think having tests in code is a great thing. So the point that I want to drive home is I belong to a radical camp of agile people that I would call myself a reasonablist, by which I mean I am not going to follow the specific precepts of Scrum or of Kanban or of XP or of mechanism of the day.
You're going to be reasonable. Yeah, I
That's the
like that.
goal. That yes, some of this stuff I want to take, but I'm not going to live my life as a test driven developer. Uh, I don't believe in that as a general principle, and I don't know. I don't know that it's sustainable, especially once you get to significant levels of complexity, and once you start dealing with, say, like database queries. Most of the stuff in databases, you can say, "Oh, well, I can write tests around it." To an extent, yes, but you're not. I don't know. The way that I would want to explain it is that for uh, for the idea of having an explicit set of test cases that will cover all scenarios, It's beautiful in a hypothetical construct, but it doesn't work because you have infinite tests and not infinite time. So that's where we have to cut as many corners as we can in terms of testing while still getting as much coverage as possible. And so, yes, decent test suites, very nice to have. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm anti-testing, I'm anti-unit testing, or anti-integration testing, or
Right, but you
systems testing, or anything
but
else.
we're all in the business of supporting quote unquote the business. You need to have a minimum viable product at a certain point. Like you can't just test just to test.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to strawman test-driven development because I know that I am biased against it, and I don't want to make it sound like it's an absurd idea. I know some of this is it's not for me, but some of it is in challenges that I've had in actual implementation, and part of it might be, well, the tooling that you're using isn't conducive to test-driven development, and then we'll change the tooling. Can't always do that. The 3 million lines of code that already exists in this platform, I can't test-driven develop that necessarily. um, it's very hard to tease out the deep integrations of 20 years of development. And so working in brownfield code is it is challenging to really be test first. Um, I won't say it's impossible. I know that it's possible. I know people do it, but it is a real challenge. And so, all right, to this point, this is Bob Martin. Let me drop in the link here because his argument is extreme programming basically became normal, and that's why people don't think about it very much. So XP did come out in 1999. That was the original book, um, and 12 practices. So the 12 practices that if you don't follow them exactly, it's you have the Ouroboros. Planning, nowadays known as Scrum.
Eating your own tail, yeah.
Yeah, the idea that software is produced in short increments from from a prioritized list of work items. To that end, okay, a lot of the practices of Scrum, they're cargo cult. Uh, the the whole idea of Fibonacci sequence numbers for sizing, or T-shirts for sizing, or uh, you
Oh,
have
t-shirts.
these,
You're giving me trauma with the t-shirts.
or you
Medium,
have
small, large.
yes, these artifacts, these meetings that you must have. Why do you have them? Because you have to have them to have them. Um, the they have meaning. There's a little bit of Chesterton's fence with some items in Scrum.
Chesterton fence. I gotta look stuff. You know too much.
Let me briefly describe Chesterton's fence. I will paraphrase it greatly. I won't tell the full parable, but it's the idea that things that are there had a reason for being there, and if you do not understand the reason why they are there, it is better not to mess with it until you understand very clearly why it is there, because otherwise it could be that you make a change and nothing bad happens because the reason is obviated over time. It could be that you just don't understand the massive consequences of making a change because you haven't lived without this thing. So having things like retrospectives, yeah, having a retro is fine in some respects, um, but I guess where I would say is if your team is small enough that a scrum team is supposed to be, and if you're meeting all the time like a scrum team should be, um, and you're interacting pretty regularly, not just in your 15-minute daily stand up, the retro quickly becomes not that important, and after a while, it's a waste of time. Um, you can have ad hoc discussions as needed, especially as you have smaller teams. Now, if you have the full Scrum team of say 10 people, then you might still need the retro. So
I would
again,
say too, it's also hurtful because when you have a retro and everybody's like it's Mike's fault, it starts to get very personal.
in fairness, retrospectives described in Scrum are not supposed to be blame on a person. They're always supposed to be discussions
Well,
of
you need to do
process.
some training with my colleagues.
Yeah, yeah, and so that obviously doesn't always happen. Or daily stand-ups. They're supposed to be 15 minutes. You're in, you're out, you're done. Some of these drag on for a lot longer. Um, so in a basically some of the ideas of Scrum I think are useful. I do like the idea of prioritizing work items. And you also have Kanban, which is a different way of prioritizing. It's a different way of tackling a set of problems. And I do think that's perfectly reasonable. So Solomon talking about Chesterton's fence, it's what comments are for, which is why this isn't a problem because nobody forgets to comment or is clear in what they comment. I agree. Solomon's absolutely
Solomon is
right.
smart. I'm so glad I got to meet him in person at the
um,
SQL Saturday. Yeah.
yes, yeah, and obviously it's sarcasm. I get it. It's funny. I lolled. And yeah, that's just within code, but there's also within operations. Why do we have these operations? Why do we have this thing going on? Sorry, I meant isn't clear. See, even in the comment, Solomon, in your comment, it was unclear. I see what you
Oh,
did
is
there.
he able to log in?
Must already have been logged in. So,
Okay.
um, okay, small releases, frequent incremental releases. Yeah, that's good. Metaphor, domain-driven design. Systems are based on simple mental models of a problem domain. Not a mistake, just proving a point. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This one, very easy to fall off that train. In a perfect world, domain-driven design is awesome. We don't live in a perfect world.
Mm-mm.
Simple design. Keep the system as simple as possible at all times, regardless of what we fear about the future.
Well, this is
How?
the thing.
Yeah, this is. You have trouble because, on one hand, you have to write code that is able to scale. And if you write for today with no thought about tomorrow, then you're rewriting a lot. You might say, oh, it's okay. We can rewrite quickly. Except when we come back up here in planning, guess what you never have time to do? You never have time to rewrite. You have time to do a quick patch. You have time to uh, build another, slap another bit of Flex Seal on your cracking systems because you've got 12 other things you need to cover in this sprint. And we're always sprinting because it's Scrum. We always have sprints. Everything is a sprint. We're constantly sprinting. Just like humans. We as humans when we run, we constantly sprint. When you run a marathon, that's really like 180 sprints.
I mean, if there's a dinosaur behind you, yeah, for sure.
Nowadays, we call this test-driven development, acceptance test-driven development. Yeah, like to my point, the percentage of developers who actually do test-driven development, low single digits.
There's not enough people. I mean, that's part of the issue that we're running into is that you've heard this ad nauseum, but we're transitioning to SQL Server, but also we're transitioning at the same time from Tableau to Power BI. And man, Power BI, the learning curve, it's a great tool, but the learning curve is immense,
Yeah,
and we're going to be in trouble. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, how do you do all that? Like, it's going to take a long time.
yeah, and Power BI has a different mental model than Tableau. Tableau is user presentation; it's presentation layer strictly.
Right.
Power BI is data engineering with user presentation.
As this Power Query modeling, like
Yeah,
it has been, and then there's the Fabric side because I'm sharing stuff with people. I mean,
Oh, Mike, you're on mute.
The learning curve has been really intense.
I agree. I agree.
I'm the third dashboard at all of Duke, so I'm living through it right now, and I'm learning a lot. But oof, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Refactoring, again, great idea. How much time do you really get to do it? Sometimes your team can claw out a certain percentage of time for refactoring, but uh, I don't know. At some point, you're not going to be able to do it. Pair programming, we did talk about it. It can be very exhausting. It's um,
You gotta do. I think you can do it in increments where
yeah,
someone's leading and someone's following, and you do that for, um, I don't know, 90 minutes max, and then have breaks and or do it the next day. Like it's a lot.
yeah. So if you have to do pair programming to succeed, most companies aren't going to succeed. Um,
Whoa, what? What do you mean by that?
well, what I mean is, not that many companies are doing pair programming.
Oh, yeah, I mean, well, because it's expensive, right?
It can be. It can be expensive. It's also a challenge if you're strictly remote. I know that there are tools to help with pair programming when
Like
you're
Visual
remote.
Studio, yeah, has like a
Yeah. So VS Code and Visual Studio have live share. Um,
yeah.
there are some tools that are available to help make that experience a little bit better, but it's a challenge. In person, it's a little bit easier, but I don't. It's tough. That one's tough. And Solomon, you're right. There's a battle. It's justifying spending time refactoring instead of working on something new. And when you are dealing strictly in sprints and you have capacity, and you're expecting, well, we're going to fill your capacity every sprint because everything is a sprint. Um, then yeah, the business people are going to win. They're going to say need more features. So when you put out the simplest design to just put something in place and it's teetering but it hasn't quite fallen over yet, it's tough to get that justification until it actually breaks, and then when it breaks, you now have to fix it as soon as possible. So we can't spend 2 months rebuilding this thing. It's broken. Get it fixed right now. Um, and then, well, we'll prioritize it. Yeah, sure, we'll prioritize it until the product owner comes in and says, it's not broken, so we don't need to worry about that. I don't justify it. I just fix it without asking permission if I can get away with it. And then
Who
again,
said that?
that
Solomon?
was Millhouse, and I've been the same way before. So
Well,
I do
if you
get,
have a certain level of access, my gosh.
yeah, and so sometimes it's uh, as a developer, you just kind of force the hand. But then arguably that's going against the principles of XP, where uh, certainly
Extreme
going against the
program.
principles of Scrum. Just sneak in 1,000 lines of other changes. There you go. And that happens. I don't want to. I'm not even going to poo-poo that. I've done it before. Like yeah,
What?
yeah, of
You
course. Where hey, there's
taking away your Eagle Scout badge, pal?
ha like look, there's a bug that isn't high enough priority for the product owner to prioritize fixing it, or there's a architectural issue. Yeah, I'm going to make that change regardless of whether the product owner thinks that's important enough to justify, and I'll make the time for it. I'll get it done because it's a long-term improvement. So to that end, though, that kind of goes against some of these principles. Collective ownership, code belongs to team, not to the individual. I think that's fair. 40-hour
Totally.
week. I mean, XP didn't come up with a 40-hour week. However, their idea is you shouldn't have to work overtime. Okay. On-site customer, that is something that did come out of XP and I think is pretty solid. If you have a good product owner or a good product manager.
I've been lucky with that. And dude, a lot of our clients are very smart. Sorry, that was my pair programmer. Like she didn't even pass her programming test. She's a cat.
Coding standards, consistent code, emphasizing cleanliness and communication.
Well, the good thing is like there's a lot of tools where you can. So now you can be like, I've used Copilot to be like, hey, can you take out all these commas? Like, so if that's important to your shop, I mean, like, there's so many tools that can help with that.
Yeah, but I sigh because this is it's
Okay,
politics. It's
okay,
corporate
okay.
politics.
How about this? How about this? I now have gone back to comma after the end of my lines instead of the beginning.
It's good. It's good.
So you're making progress, Kevin.
Civilization befits you, Mike.
I used to do that when I was younger, and then everybody at Duke was doing it the
Um,
opposite. But that became a standard, and I was like, oh boy, that's not the ANSI standard, I'll tell you that.
right. So when Uncle Bob here says, "Hey, most of you do most of these practices on a regular basis," I just went through that list and said, "Yeah, if you're talking at the 30,000 foot, do you plan? Yes, we plan. Okay, do you follow all of the
No,
rules
we
of
do not.
Scrum? No. Do you always release things frequently and incrementally? Probably. Do you do domain-driven design? No, I've never worked at a company that did domain-driven design. Do you keep design simple?
I mean, we try. I mean, who doesn't try to? You're trying to save money and make
Do
money.
you do test-driven development? No. Of the triple digit, maybe quadruple digit number of developers that I've known, probably fewer than 10 are strong test-driven developers, meaning like 80% plus of the code that they write is done test-driven fashion. I don't think there are many people who actually do
I'm not
this.
in your 10 because I get. They're like, can you test this in prod, or can you test this in POC, or the TST or the RHEL environment? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so.
Well, no, even test-driven development here doesn't even mean you're doing all the development in a dev environment. It means you're writing unit tests prior to writing a single line of code that's actual business code. You're
Yeah, you're
writing all of
writing
the
like
tests
edge
around it.
cases, like can 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 this accept a date that's not valid, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Before you write the code.
correct. Yeah. The red green refactor,
Yeah,
and
that's,
it's
I don't.
neat. People learn about it and then they stop using it because it's bulky.
Whew, Kevin,
There's a
I'm
lot of
voting
bulk
Kevin
involved with
tonight.
it. Got to watch the Lions beat the Bucks. They've got a good shot. But yeah, looking at this, like, how many of these are most companies doing? I don't work at most companies, admittedly, but I've worked at quite a few companies. I've worked at several companies in many fields. I've done consulting with companies in several industries, different sizes. And of these dozen principles, half of them are observed in the breach. A couple of them aren't observed at all. And I don't think the companies I've worked for have been particularly weird in this regard. So for Bob to say, "Oh yeah, everybody," okay, not everybody, but most teams are trying to work toward them, and hey, it's practically normal. A lot of that stuff isn't normal. So anyhow, that's enough of that. Actually, I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about. One more mini rant. This is a mini rant, and this one I'm going to bring Mala in on. So SQL Saturday Pittsburgh was this Saturday. I have zero rant about Pittsburgh. It was a good event. Well done, good people, great venue. Everything was nice. Things were smooth. Much appreciated that and enjoyed being there. But there was one session that was canceled because the speaker never showed up. And there was some discussion about the abstract. And another speaker there checked it out in a tool and basically was like, yeah, there's a very high probability that this particular session was AI generated, that the abstract and title were AI generated. and that this person, I didn't do a detailed look on whether the person actually exists or not, but kind of have to raise the question about, is this a real person?
They do
I,
exist, Kevin.
what's that?
They do exist. Person exists.
Okay.
That's been verified. But go on. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
mean to. Yeah.
The Pittsburgh person does exist.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, um, where this comes in is that wasn't the one that we spent a lot of time talking about. There was one that Eugene Meidinger, who doesn't bring me on his podcast because apparently Eugene's too good now. He's moved up in the world too far.
Eugene
Uh,
doesn't invite you?
it's a joke. I have not
Oh,
been
okay.
on Eugene's Fabric podcast, but I also haven't asked, and he has a specific niche. Admittedly, I don't do fabric. I know enough about fabric, but I don't do it
Oh
enough to
boy,
make it make
Brent
sense.
Ozar went off on Fabric the other day.
Wouldn't be the first time. But anyhow, Eugene is good people, so I don't want to make it sound like there's a
He's
beef.
awesome. You guys on the Sequel Trail, like,
Yes,
love
the
it.
the former SQL Data Partners podcast.
Yes, yeah.
But anyhow, so Eugene brought up a submission that was something about like 5G and autonomous vehicles that somebody submitted to the SQL Saturday. And we're like, this one has to be AI generated. And you start to wonder, why would people do this? Why would you create a bunch of like not really relevant AI generated session topics and submit
So
them to conferences?
one more thing. We had a speaker who stood up, Kevin, last week on our user group right here. That person's abstract is 99% AI generated.
I can believe it.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, there, and I know people who are doing real talks and do run them through Chat GPT and the like. I do make fun of it sometimes, but yeah, I get it that does happen. But the idea that I'm going for is the people who would submit a session but have zero interest in actually presenting it and trying to understand the incentives to do so. Why would you submit this session on like autonomous vehicles where it's obvious you're not actually going to speak on autonomous vehicles at a SQL Saturday in Pittsburgh? Um, it doesn't make any sense. And it's not like you're getting paid to do it, so there's no monetary scam. Even if it is a paid conference, the way paid conferences work is they pay you when you're there, usually after you have given your session, so that they can ensure that you actually show up and give your session before they give you the money. So that's the part I just don't get. It's obviously not money because these are free conferences. Um, it's I don't know. There might be a clout aspect that I've submitted for these events, but like okay, a mid market SQL Saturday, that's cool. I enjoy it. I'm certainly not going to denigrate it, but that's not really for clout purposes. Even a large SQL Saturday, it's not really a clout bringer. Like, oh, SQL Saturday Orlando. It's cool. Please don't make it sound like I'm denigrating at all any SQL Saturday anywhere. I will go to every SQL Saturday. I went to SQL Saturday Halifax where there were 5
Oh, I'm
speakers and
jealous.
5
That's in
attendees.
Canada.
Yes.
5 activities.
Oh,
Seriously.
my wife's in Montreal, so yeah. So like, I'm getting. My brother-in-law's from Canada, so
Yeah.
I love
Halifax
Canada.
Halifax had one SQL Saturday and it was really so that Chris Bell could go home and visit some family.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, that's what I was just about to come to that.
yeah, and there might have been 12 people total. It might have been 7 attendees because Chris and Gigi were there.
It's more than
But
six.
So Chris has made a few attempts at getting events to happen there, and none of them have been successful so far.
yeah,
Yeah.
but anyhow, so I not No denigration of any SQL Saturday, no matter how large, no matter how small. But I just don't understand, why would you generate fake abstracts to submit for these events and then just, like, not show up, not do anything, not care. You've obviously clicked on confirm to confirm that you're going to speak there, but then you just ghost them. And it's
No,
weird.
it's very strange because I was thinking about window functions that I was going to do a couple of years ago, and I had to bail, and I felt terrible about it. But like, I had to tell you, like, you can't, no, you can't plan stuff without knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't know. I guess I don't have a moral to the story. It's just more
So
of, yeah,
my theory on why, it's only theory because I don't know anyone personally who's done this sort of thing. I hope I don't. Uh, I had a very long argument with one guy, not this guy who stood us up, but there was another similar speaker about a few months ago who did the same thing. Um, him and I had a bunch of back and forth on LinkedIn on why he did what he did and all of that. I don't know if his abstract was AI generated or anything, but that was a real person and we had a real conversation. Don't know that. But my theory is that they are mostly trolls, the ones who never respond. They're just
Hmm.
trying their luck somewhere.
Right.
Steve Jones once on SQL Server Central, poor Steve Jones got articles from one such person, like a real technical article he sent, and Steve thought, this is a real person, and he rejected that article because he has many reasons why he doesn't like an article. He rejects it,
Right.
and that person would keep sending him the same article every day,
Really?
over and over and
That's
over.
horrible.
And it was like he was just a troll, and similarly like that. I think eventually it stopped on its own. Maybe he got tired of it or something, but similar, I would think they just like to troll people and
It's
get
like
some
technical
fun out of
stalking.
thinking. Yeah, that's my theory.
Weird.
That's just that. uh,
maybe.
that's why it happens. Yeah.
And that might be a factor in this.
Right.
But yeah, all in all, it's just weird. And I guess that's how I'm going to wrap up today's show. It's just weird. Kind of the moral, the overarching theme of everything we talked about today. Stuff's weird.
Uncle
Um,
Bob, it's just weird.
Uncle Bob is fine.
No,
I
Uncle Bob.
disagree. I disagree with him on this. But also, that was 12 years ago. So I don't know if he's changed his mind at all on it.
2013. When I saw that, I was like, "Oof, man, I'm getting old."
But in any event, we are going to wrap things up. Remember, tomorrow, in-person meeting. Matt Gordon is going to be in person. Matt will be in the house. So check that out, meetup.com/TriPass. Next Tuesday will be the last data science, business intelligence, artificial intelligence meeting of the year for TriPass. So check that one out. This will be online. And with that, we're going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully, Twitch will be fine. Hopefully, we'll be all happy. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess we'll continue grousing. But
Check your DNS, folks.
yes, everybody go check DNS. Fix your DNS. And until we do see each other at the next meeting or Shop Talk episode, or just like I cut you off in traffic or something, take care.